Hi everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today's video on our Map and Lens channel. You know, in life when you've got a bit of spare money, there's always sensible things you can buy. I know you might want to buy a new carpet, or you might want to put some money aside, or you can do what I've just done and bought a new exhaust. Let's see if we can get it fitted. Now there actually are some sensible reasons why I wanted to put a new exhaust on the NT. They are no, all joking aside, there are actually some sensible reasons. The first one is I'm really not a fan of how the stock exhaust looks. It's a little bit too shiny chromy. It's a little bit too I don't know, it's just, it looks a smidge dull, if I'm honest. It doesn't sound of anything at all. There's no noise that comes out of it at all. It's just not a very attractive unit. And the second reason is that at some point in the not too distant future, probably, I'm going to have to swap over the rear tyre on this on the NT. It got squared off fairly badly when we did our road trip up in Scotland, and although taking out on the twisties a bit has helped it, it's still a little bit squared off, so at some point it's going to need replacing. And it is an absolute pain to get the rear tyre off on an NT because of the way that the exhaust is. There are some hacks and there are some ways you can do it on YouTube, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. The bolt that holds the shaft in the rear wheel, you can't really get to with a stock exhaust in, and the stock exhaust is a solid piece with a heat shield attached. The new exhaust that I've got from a company called Delkevic, which I may or may not pronounce right, is a stainless steel system, and it splits in two, so the muffler comes off the back, giving you access to the rear brake discs and the rear brake setup, and also would let me get the spindle out of the rear wheel to change it, which will make things much easier. So, never changed an exhaust on a motorbike before, never changed an exhaust on a car before, to be honest. So let's give it a go. Let's see what happens, and before we do any of that, we need to do the obligatory what does it sound like first, so we can put in a little match and see what it sounds like at the end. So let's do that first. Right, so where do we start? I'm trying out a new head cam for this, so hopefully it'll give you a decent view of what's going on, and hopefully the audio's decent enough that you can actually hear. So as you can see, it's one solid huge lump heat shield over a steel exhaust underneath. So first thing that we need to do is try and get the heat shield off. So there's a bolt there, screw underneath, there's another screw underneath there, and then there's this, which in this little bolt down there that holds it on, which is I think quite strange because Honda is notorious for excellent design and thinking things through, but it would appear on this they haven't. The cutout that they've made there in the little foot peg isn't quite wide enough to actually do anything, so I can't get a bolt into that, which is the exhaust hanger, and I can't get a bolt further down into there, which is where I'd find the one of the bolts for the heat shield or the chrome cover. So apparently, and I've had a little video on this, so what we need to do is we have to take this foot peg off. So that's 1, 2, 3 bolts, and then there's also a bolt hidden inside there. So that's going to be job 1. Let's see how we get on. Okay, so far I've managed to get those 2 bolts out. They came out nice and easy, and it looks like the pedal for the rear brake is actually mounted onto this, so we need to be a little bit careful here, and it might just be a case of trying to just move this out just enough to get to the bolt, rather than having to take the pedal off itself, the pedal bracket off itself. Although at some point I do want this off because it needs a bit of a paint. But anyway, that's the bolt that I was mentioning, which is inside the pannier, so that's the one that needs to come off as well. So hopefully that'll come off without too much trouble, and then we'll see where we are then. Okay, so thankfully that bolt came out really easily, no problems at all. And then what this seems to give you the ability to do is to just, without removing the peg plate, just move this around a little bit and get some access into here. and then move it into that bolt, so I should be able to get a socket on that. So as long as they're not too tight, they should come off. The other thing we need to do as well is, don't know if you can see, but down here back is the O2 sensor. So obviously that's going to have to come off as well. Now it's plugged in up there, so the wire runs up and it comes up to behind here somewhere. So in a perfect world, I'd like to just get a big wrench on that, on the back there, take it off, offer up the new exhaust and just bolt that back in. If that doesn't work and I need to get the O2 sensor off, then we're going to have to take some of this paneling off to get to where the O2 sensor is and unclip it from the harness. But piece by piece, step by step, let's see where we go, and first things first, let's see if we can get the rest of these bolts off from under there. So far the heat shield is fairly well plain ball, except, as is always the case, and anybody who's ever done any form of maintenance on a car or bike, there's always one screw, nut or bolt that doesn't want to play nicely, and in this case it's that guy there. He seems to be incredibly tight and doesn't fancy coming off. So first job, going to try some good old GT85, give that a couple of minutes to soak and see if that can help us out. If not, to be honest, the exhaust that I'm putting on is a street legal one, so there shouldn't really be any need to go back to the original. And if I'm honest, I was amazed how much these things go for on eBay. So if the worst comes to the worst, I can always just, or I might look at chopping the head off this bolt and seeing if I can get it off that way, as long as this bolt doesn't go into anything that I'm going to need to hang the new exhaust on. But I'd rather get it off properly if we can, so that's job one. Bit of penetrating fluid, see what happens. So why the screw underneath, we've got some penetrating fluid there. We had a little go at this exhaust hanger, and this one looked like it's been in place since the bike was made. A little bit tough, a little bit tight, but a bit of penetrating fluid seemed to get it to play nicely. I'm actually currently in two minds about whether or not, I was going to say whether or not I could actually just take the whole exhaust and the heat shield unit off as one thing, but that's not going to work, because hidden under behind there, I don't know if you can see that, is the brackets that nip up and hold the standard exhaust on the downpipe. So unfortunately this heat shield is going to have to come up one way or another. I have a look underneath, and this bolt that may be a pain actually only screws straight into the stock exhaust. So if I have to cut the head off, it's not the end of the world. But whilst that's soaking, carry on getting this one out. I might have a go at seeing if we can get this one loose as well, and then everything's loosened up apart from that, with the exception of the O2 sensor, which is through there, which we'll need to look at as well. I'd like to be able to get that off without unplugging it from the wire and lumen there, but again, let's just see how we go, bit by bit, step by step, and yeah, let's see what happens. Okay, good news. As you can see, we've now got a turning screw. A little bit of GT85 and we're golden. There we go, heat shield off. So far I reckon that's taken me, what, 15-20 minutes. And bear in mind that this is part of the approved official way to get the back wheel off. You can see how much time extra this would have. I know when we were up in Scotland, waiting in the garage for the chap to have a look at the bike, a guy came in a Triumph Sprint 950 I think it was, and he had his exhaust separated and the wheel off in less time than it's taken me to just get the heat shield off this bike. So this is one of the practical reasons I was mentioning about trying to get the exhaust swapped, not only for aesthetics and so that it actually has a little bit of voice, but just to give better access to the rear brake assembly if I ever need it, and to be able to just quickly separate the exhaust, take it apart and get the back wheel off if I need to. Yeah, bit of a strange design, this one from Honda I think, but anyway, so that hanger's loose, that hanger's pretty much off. So it's going to be try and get the O2 sensor off, which looks really quite badly rusted. So we'll see how that goes. I'd like to not have to buy a new auto sensor. I'd like to be able to get that one off. And then there's this bracket assembly in here, which all needs to come off to loosen these retainers there. And then in theory, a mallet against this, and it should start to slide off, possibly, hopefully. Yeah, I guess we'll see. Another one of those infuriating problems, which is whoever put this hanger on, all they needed to do was bring this down, what, 2 or 3 degrees, and then you could get a socket wrench in it. But they haven't, which means we now need to find a little spanner to do it. At least it's a 10mm, so it should be fairly easy to find. There again, you haven't seen the state of my toolbox. Look at the size of this adjustable wrench that I'm using on this little 10mm. I think I need to go and buy myself some more spanners. Right, okay, so that also wasn't as bad as it could have been. Round the back and the O2 sensor is now loose, although twisting it does seem to tighten the cables up, so hopefully I don't have to twist it too far. Ah, okay, so I think I'm probably starting to see now why they said you need to disconnect this from the loom, because I'm slightly concerned that if I twist and twist and twist and twist, all that's going to happen is those cables are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and then they're going to fray and snap, and then, move that away so you can see, and then I'm going to have to replace an O2 sensor, and there shouldn't really be any need, because as it stands it's fine. The other thing I don't really understand is the new exhaust's got this little sort of like hanger bracket at the back as well, which I noticed, which is just sits in fairly close proximity to the rear tyre. Don't really know what that's for. I'd love to know if anybody knows what the purpose of that is. I don't know whether it's a balance thing or a... no idea. Right, well all it took was a couple of little taps from a chisel, sheared the end of that in the process, a couple of gentle taps with a hammer, a little bit of a wiggle rather than a yank, and there we go. We have the downpipes completely exposed. Now the 8-year-old child in me wants to wants to fire the bike engine and see what it sounds like completely depiped. But then I have to remember I'm a 40-year-old mature adult and I have neighbours, and I don't think they'd be very impressed at 10:15 on a Sunday morning if I had this thing firing without exhaust on. So I'm going to be mature. I'm going to get the new exhaust on as quickly as I can before that 8-year-old child comes to the surface and takes control, and I start it up without cans on. Actually, now's a good time to have a talk about the exhaust, so let's have a look at that. So this is the system that I bought. So it's a 350mm Delkevic, really hope I'm getting that right, Delkevic exhaust kit, specifically made for this bike. As you can see, hangers, actually go that way, hangers are in the same locations, which is good. That would be on the bike, it would be flipped over that way, like that. Got the twin fork off there. It's a full stainless steel pipe. Why did I go for this one? Well, I went for this one for 2 reasons. One, it was actually, believe it or not, the cheapest stainless steel exhaust pipes that I could buy for this bike. And also, I watched a video of some of the testing that Delkevic did, so they dyno the bikes with it on, so you don't need to do anything, you don't need to remap anything for the new exhaust. It has the O2 holes and everything, so it's as direct a replacement as you can get. Oh, and actually, what I'm thinking, this is the spline bolt that goes through for the axle, so that's the bit with that exhaust there that you just can't really access. Like I say, there are some hacks and some workarounds and things like that, but it's not as easy to access with it often. Then with this one, as you can see, can leave the front pipes connected to the down pipes. Just remove the little baffle holder there, little bracket, and then separate and get full access to that. It's also handy if I want to service the brakes, clean them up, you know, any bits that I need to do. It gives access back to the bike, whereas this big thing doesn't. Also, looking at the weight, she's a hefty boy, and this thing is easy half the weight, easily half the weight. So it comes with all the brackets. I'll show you. It comes with everything you need. So we've got a little hanger there, and a little rubber flex bit that sits inside. Get some branded exhaust paste as well, just to seal it up, and a pack of little bolts and screws and things to hook it up. You also get, look at that, cool little pack of stickers. Who doesn't like a sticker? Just to make things very clear, this isn't in any way a sponsored video. I bought this myself after doing some research. This is all my money. Delkevic haven't given me anything for this, and to be honest, why would they have? At this moment I have 8 subscribers and less than 500 video views across everything they've got, so why would they give me anything to test? But yeah, so this is my own money, so hopefully it'll go back on as easily as the old one came off, and it'll look the part, which is what I'm hoping for. It'll lighten the bike up a little bit, and it'll sound a bit nicer as well. It's a full UK road legal exhaust. They do exhausts. They do offer exhausts which aren't UK road legal, but I don't want the hassle of swapping and changing every time there's an MOT. So this is the UK one. It has removable baffle as well. I think with a baffle in, it's 98 to 101 decibels. I think with a baffle in. I have no idea, and they don't provide figures on what it's like with a baffle out, but this is a touring bike at the end of the day. It's not supposed to be screamy, shouty loud, so I can't see why I would take the baffle out, to be honest. Well, maybe just see what it sounds like, just again, because I'm a massive child. So we'll probably just give it a listen, just to see what it's like. But first things first, let's see if we can get this in. Start at the front, get this bit on and hooked up, get it mounted, and get the O2 sensor in. There's a little block out plate there, so pop that out and stick the O2 sensor in. It was beautifully packed, I have to say. Really well padded. They've even got their own branded sellotape and branded boxes, which is just nice, I think. It's £149 this full exhaust. And bearing in mind, used original Honda ones are going on eBay for more than that. I saw a heat shield for almost the same price, and I scuffed the heat shield to pieces after the incident in Scotland. So let's see how we go. So that's the front pipe on. Nothing's nipped up yet, everything's just sort of in place. Put a little bit of exhaust paste on the joints there, but with a little bit of tapping that slid on without any real issues. One of the good things that you get with this, I noticed, is you get like a little hanger. I don't know if you can see there. So it takes this inaccessible Honda designed bolt and drops down. So the hanger for the muffler's on this, which means that when you need to, you've got a nice easy access to a bolt. You can then slacken off the, which hangs on there, I assume, and then slacken that off. Bolt, I assume it hangs on there. Drop that off, release, undo that, slide it off, and you've got full access to the rear brakes and things. So yes, did I really need new exhaust? No. Did I want one? Yes. But also, there was a practical reason to doing it, and it's access to that and all of that. So, right, crack on. Following the Ed China school of reassembling things, which is everything together finger tight first, get it all in position, get it all lined up before you nip it up. Saves you a lot of hassle and having to re-come back. Then need to get the O2 sensor in and tidy all these wires back up again so everything hangs nicely. And then, fingers crossed, give her a start up and see what she sounds like. Thought I'd just pop the camera back on for a peel moment. Whoa, look at that. I mean, look, even the exhaust hanger, the muffler hanger, it's beautiful. And then so that this doesn't scratch that gorgeous, gorgeous shiny finish that's on the muffler. Somewhere, oh, there we go. We have this little plastic liner that we put in. So we'll get that fitted. We'll get it hooked over. We'll get that put on there. Get the O2 sensor back in. Line everything up. Nip everything up. Start her up, and hopefully we'll get no warning lights. And a nice fruity sounding exhaust. And even if it doesn't sound any better, it's lighter, it looks nicer, and it's easier to work with. So win-win. So there's the first look, the first little test fitting. Already, to my eye, that looks 1,000 times better than the stock exhaust. Still got some bits and bobs to do. Still need to nip that up and clean off some of this paste because it's gone a little bit mental as it's wiggled in and out. Button that up, button that up, button that up. Get the O2 filter in there. Still don't know what this thing is. I'd love to know. Get the O2 sensor in, get it all tidied back up again. Give her a start up and see what happens. Getting there. Well, we were doing so well, and exhaust was pretty much fitted, looked okay. Went to give it a cheeky little start up before I turned the video on, and it was blowing terribly from down here, from the downpipe. I had a close look and realised I'd completely stuffed up the installation of the crushed gaskets, these carbon ones, and as a result, it was just blowing. As a result, it was just blowing out from there, so it sounded awful. You could hear that there was a nice rumble coming from this, the back box, but yeah, it just sounded like a broken exhaust pipe. That's the mess I made of it. You can see there, absolutely stuffed it. Proper amateur's mistake, frustratingly. Now, whilst I can get certain gaskets from like Euro parts, the mesh ones, they're not like this. And therefore I don't think that they're going to fit. Delkevic cell replacement gaskets, crushed gaskets, but they're quite expensive. I think like £15 each, I think, and I'm probably going to need a couple. So I found an online motorbike parts place that sells them. They'll do 2 for 15 quid. So although this one, to be fair, looks alright, looks decent. I think I'm probably just going to buy 2, to be honest. Yeah, it's kind of frustrating because it was pretty much done, buttoned up and sorted. But can't do anything about it. No point moaning and whining about it. It is what it is. So that one might actually be alright. It might be salvageable, to be honest. You can see all the remnants on the floor from the one I stuffed up. I think it dropped down. It slipped back down inside there a little bit too far. So when that pipe there, it was it shoved it further down and broke it, rather than actually going over the top of it like it's supposed to and ending up sort of here, so it gets crushed nicely. Yeah, it's my own fault. I should have looked more closely and had a bit more of a thorough check before I did it, but anyway, it is what it is. So I'll get those parts ordered. It's probably going to be a couple of days at the best case, I think, before they're here, so it just means that the bike's off the road until then, because there's no exhaust. There you go. So there's some irony in that I'm trying to improve the bike and make it sound a bit better, and I don't have the bike to use. And as you can see, looking up, it's a lovely afternoon, so it would have been nice for a nice Sunday ride out, but anyway, it is what it is. Have a bit of a tidy up, and then wait for the parts to arrive, and we'll reconvene. Hopefully, I'll manage to fit the crush gaskets next time without bossing them up, because to be honest, I'd only have to do it another couple of times wrong, and it would prove quite an expensive. £15 a time. It would prove a fairly expensive mistake. So anyway, okay, we'll reconvene when I've got some more gaskets. So I managed to acquire some new graphite gaskets from Mad for Bikes. So they're now on. I've learned a little bit from my amateur's mistake, so I've opened up this a little bit just to make sure it went over, situated the gasket a little bit better than I did last time. I guess just took a bit more care and a bit more time instead of rushing, just because I wanted to use my bike in here, the exhaust. So I'm going to do this up, fit that, just gently rest the muffler on, and let's just see if we get a better seal. It can be quite an expensive thing, quite an expensive mistake, these, because they're £15 for 2 and they are unbelievably fragile. as anybody who's fitted an exhaust before will know. So hopefully this will be it. Guess we'll see. So I've just spent another 10-15 minutes taking the brackets off, putting the brackets on, taking the brackets off, putting them back on. Still can't work out for the life of me where the noise is coming from. You know, why is it still blowing so badly? Couldn't see anything there. Realised, like an idiot, I'd left out the O2 sensor. So no matter how tight I tightened these up, the exhaust was just kicking out and blowing from the back there. So don't seem to be able to think very logically when I'm putting this on. I have to say it's been more of a faff than it should have been, and honestly it's nothing to do with the exhaust. It's to do with my inability to laterally think for whatever reason. Honestly, I think I'm just a child and a kid, and I'm excited. I just want to use my bike, so I think I'm rushing and not thinking things through properly. But what I have found out, in my honest opinion, again, this isn't based around any exhaust fitting skill or ability. What I would say is I prefer the standard brackets to the ones that came with the exhaust. The GoPro battery ran out at the end, so that's why you missed the last little bit. But basically what I was saying is that I didn't use the brackets that came with the exhaust. I used the original Honda ones. Now I'm sure if you're an exhaust fitter, which I don't claim to be, you could get the brackets, the nice shiny brackets that came with it, with the exhaust system, to work. But for me, I just couldn't get them to tighten up enough just to hold it on and stop the gas fluid, the gas coming out. Again, yeah, if you're a proper exhaust fitter, I'm sure you'd get your joints and your things so perfectly tight that it would work, but I'm not that. So I went with the Honda ones. And they seem to have nipped it up, and it seems to be okay. Yeah, so fingers crossed, that's it now. Sounds pretty good. Put the before and after sounds in now. So yeah, quite happy with it. It's definitely subtly louder, and it looks better and is lighter. So happy with that. Job well done. Tune in for more videos coming real soon. Thanks for watching.